Hey everyone, welcome to Aerobic AF. I'm Ken and this is Quinlan.
We're pumped you're here. This is your home for a casual, unfiltered look at the world of running and all things hybrid training.
If you're trying to level up, stay consistent, and still be a normal human being, you're in the right place.
Let's get into it.
Welcome back, Aerobic AF superfans. This is episode 10 of the podcast.
Big milestone, so we wanted to celebrate and talk about one of the, biggest things happening in sports right now, which is the Winter Olympics 2026.
Yeah, you got your creatine ready?
I do. Thank goodness I missed a few days last week, so that was not good.
For the listeners, Quinlan does have her creatine on lock right next to her for this conversation, so we can make sure that we're taking care of our supplement needs while we do our recording.
Priorities are straight.
All right, let's just start here because this is very fresh in our minds. We're recording this on Sunday, so the closing ceremonies will be later tonight. We just finished watching the gold medal hockey game between the U.S. and Canada. Now, I want to turn this into a full-on hockey podcast. I used to do that, obviously, as a career when I worked at TSN. We would have been talking about this game ad nauseum. But such a riveting hockey game. So entertaining to watch. A disappointing result, obviously, for the Canadians, but they really played an outstanding game, and ultimately it was the American goaltender, Connor Hellebuyck, who stole the show.
And I have to give it to them. I mean, they gave us an incredible game to watch. The last two Super Bowls, for contrast, have been incredibly boring. So for myself as a more casual fan, I really appreciated the intensity. Although there was a point I was like, okay, my heart rate is really high and I would love if they just scored and made it a boring game. I'm like, I take back what I said. I want boring and a win.
They had so many chances in the third period and they were really dominating the play.
Oh my gosh. I don't even know that much about hockey, and it was clear to me that they were winning. They basically had possession for what felt like most of the game, and then the Americans would get these like random little chances, and I guess they capitalized on what they got, and that ended up being the moment, and it is what it is.
3-on-3 is just one of those things, too, where it's basically a coin flip.
It's like a shootout. Or like in soccer or hockey, like no one wants the game to get to that point.
No, you'd prefer that it ends in regulation. I understand why they changed the rules this time around, so they are having 3 or 4 overtime games that are just draining out the players. I think personally I would have liked to have seen maybe them change the rules for once you get into the medal round.
Yeah.
Like maybe do 3-on-3 in the round robin in the beginning and then do a 5-on-5 once you get into the medal stage. But it is what it is. Proud of the way the team played. I thought that they looked really good against the Americans. I thought it was their best game of the tournament.
Looked amazing.
Yeah, and I think it's been, almost 30, 40 years since the Americans have won gold here. So definitely, they were definitely deserving of a result like this with how good their program has been for the last couple decades.
And we got the win last year with the Four Nations tournament, so that was great for Canada, but I feel like now when Canada lines up against the U.S., it's more than just hockey. It's representing like a bigger thing, and we won't make this political, but it felt like there was
extra tension.
Yeah, and an extra dose of heart, soul, passion layered into this game that, I don't know, it added a lot for me personally watching the game, and it really broke my heart to watch them lose and be on the ice kind of while the Americans were celebrating. That just felt cruel. I know that's what happens, but it was hard to watch.
Especially with Crosby being unable to play and him coming out of the locker room at the end, and it's probably his last Olympics. I can't imagine that he'll be on the team 4 years from now. So
I wonder how athletes feel when it's their last Olympics. Like, I think that
this is a great segue. I don't think it was intentional, but please continue.
I will. You look at an athlete at the start of their career, so much promise, so much runway, and especially for athletes like a Crosby who are just amazing from the jump, you see so much opportunity and a lot of wins, a lot of loss along the way. But when it's the final big game, I feel like the pressure is just mounting. Like whether you're playing or not, obviously he was out from injury, but you still want, I think every athlete wants to win or retire on a high.
Of course.
So how often does that happen? I don't know. Rarely.
Yeah, well, I think it's more common that players stick around a little bit past
their prime.
They got a little too long in the
Tom
tooth.
Brady.
Yeah. Well, the Tom Brady thing is super interesting because he probably could have hung him up maybe a year.
Perfect. He could have hung it up right
after that. He should have just
won
the chip in Tampa and then just walked away. It would have been good. He could have kept his wife, kept his family.
Fairy tale ending.
It would have been good, but he sacrificed it all for the game.
Because that's the athlete mindset.
I think that's pretty common, though. It's hard to walk away. Or I think it's very rare to have the opportunity to leave on that note, especially when you've been competing for 15 years, 18 years, 20 years, like some of these athletes will, a la Tom Brady or Sidney Crosby.
Totally.
Another athlete who might have been in their best interest to hang him up before competing this year would have been Lindsey Vonn.
Yeah.
This is one of the biggest stories that we were following through the Olympics. I know it hit home, really close to home for you.
Definitely.
Because Lindsey Vonn suffered a similar injury to what you had suffered in the past. She tore her ACL basically a week or 10 days before she was set to compete in the women's, which one is it? The Alpine downhill
ski. Yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know much about Lindsey Vonn, she is one of the most decorated alpine skiers of all time.
Woot woot.
And yeah, she also is very well known for her comeback stories. Like there have been so many moments in her career where she has suffered very severe injury and it's setback after setback, and she continues to put herself in the ring, which I have a lot of admiration and respect for.
Which also, by the way, when we were watching this event, it seemed like every person who was going down the hill had some sort of awful, horrendous injury that they had recovered from. It was either before the last Olympics or in this season 2 years ago. And it just seems all of them were recovering from ACLs, MCLs, broken tibia, broken femur.
Tibia plateau.
Just, it was insane the amount of injuries these announcers were going through.
Yeah, it actually felt... I don't think there was an athlete who didn't have a significant injury at some point in their career. I do believe this comes with the territory of downhill ski racing.
Certain sports,
It is a very high risk. So you do need an element of, I'll call it like a fearlessness aspect, or just being able to shut out those maybe dark thoughts or intruding thoughts about like falling or crashing, because every athlete competing in that sport should expect that will happen to them at some point in their career. Another one is Breezy Johnson. She actually suffered a knee injury a couple of weeks before the Beijing Olympics, so she withdrew her spot. I don't know the details of that injury, but she obviously came back and then won gold in that very race that she was competing against her teammate Lindsey Vonn. So there's a lot of comeback in this sport specifically, which is a testament to these athletes. I also think it's part of the reason why they're like hardwired to keep going. The great ones don't stop. Seemingly not after this.
I'm assuming everybody is kind of aware generally of what happens. I mean, most of our listeners have probably been following the Olympics.
Yeah.
Basically, Vonn tore her ACL 10 days before she was set to compete in her Olympic run, decided to compete anyways, and basically had a horrific crash.
One of the worst crashes.
30 seconds into her run.
And resulting injury is
awful.
Horrifically bad.
Like, it's saying that she's had, I think, already 5 or 6 surgeries already.
Oh my God.
Before she was even airlifted out of Italy and back to the United States, which she had to do on a private flight in her stretcher. She has countless amounts of plates, screws, all sorts of things. We read some reports that said she was at risk to her leg perhaps having to be amputated because of the severity of the break.
Similar injuries have resulted in amputation.
Yes.
So I have a lot of thoughts about this, and some of them might be conflicting. But first, I'll say, as I said before, I do have a lot of respect for Lindsey as an athlete. I've watched her documentary numerous times. I found it very inspiring when I was coming back from my ACL injury, watching an athlete, put themselves back in a position to compete. I think that's great. Where I have a problem is when we start to glorify competing with injury and calling it a heroic moment, an extraordinary braverism. It rubs me the wrong way because while Lindsey is very courageous in her own right, I think when you're at that level, there is this influence and you're a role model for younger athletes. And I just don't think it sends the right message to be putting yourself in a position to really hurt yourself. Like, of course, there's an element of risk with downhill skiing, whether you have an ACL or not. You could be perfectly healthy and still walk away or not walk away and have a brutal injury. That comes with the territory.
It feels like in this sport in particular, though, the ACL is very important for the stability of the joints, to your point.
It is. I was reading that there were some examples of athletes in the past who have competed without ACLs. So it's not even that it can't be done. I think the acute nature of it definitely plays some sort of role. But whether the ACL caused the crash or not, because there's a lot of conflicting opinions.
That was unrelated.
Hard to believe there wasn't some influence, but regardless of that, she's not really walking away at all from this Olympics. She is going to have a huge uphill battle with recovery and rehab, which honestly, she's in the best position to be going up against something like that because she has the best of the best doctors, physios, support system who's been with her through so many of these injuries. But the everyday athlete or younger athlete does not have that support system. So my brain goes to, okay, how does that make the young athlete feel? Is it that they are not courageous for withdrawing when they're injured and thinking that they need to push through because that's what makes you a great athlete? These are the things I think about. So I think it goes far past the individual and she can make her own decisions. Man or woman choosing to compete, that's on you. It just, I don't know. I've been thinking about this a lot. It's hard to wrap my head around what happened.
I dislike the narrative that kind of came out where it was saying, people were suggesting that we treat male athletes and female athletes differently in regards to this situation. I think that regardless if it was a male skier or if it was a female skier, they were competing without an ACL and then they have this horrific injury. I think it's judged the same. I think that the criticism, rightly so, is coming from the fact that maybe you weren't in a state where you were able to be competitive, or you weren't in a state where you were able to make it down the hill in a run. I know she did some training runs before and she was feeling okay. I have to believe the intensity of a training run is different than the intensity of trying to compete for a gold medal against the best in the world when that day comes. You're probably trying some things that maybe you wouldn't try to make it down the hill and put yourself in contention for that podium, which an athlete like Vonn would still be trying to do if she's going to line up.
Yeah, she knew that she was lining up to medal, and so she took what they call a hard line, which means I guess you're cutting it pretty close to those gates, which is why she ended up hooking her hand, and the rest is history. But in contrast, I want to talk about an athlete who I actually admire a lot from the Summer Olympics, which is Simone Biles. And she withdrew from the Tokyo 2021 Olympics in a number of categories due to what's called the twisties, which is in gymnastics a dangerous mental block, and it can put you at risk because you're flipping around in the air, you don't know where you are, and you can really hurt yourself. And I look at gymnastics as another equivalent sport to downhill skiing where high risk, you have to have that element of trusting your body, trusting your training in a different way than other sports are. And Simone Biles withdrew. She did return, I think, for the all-team win ultimately, or balance beam. So she knew where she could compete and where she couldn't. And then she came back, obviously, in later Olympics and has continued to dominate. But to me, that's what makes you courageous, when you know when it's time to take a step back. Because honestly, Lindsey's had such a courageous run this last year. Who's to say she couldn't have recovered from this ACL injury pretty quickly and continued to compete like later this year? I think it wasn't fully over for her, but this was the nail in the coffin, and it's disappointing, I think, for everyone.
And I think that it does as well, or it did happen this way because she realized that this is probably her last shot,
Olympics,
last crack at the Olympics. This was the whole climax of the comeback, where she was fighting for her life. Really unfortunate the timing of the injury that happens just before. But I agree. I think that sometimes you have to take the advice of your doctors. You need to take the advice of like those close to you. It really seemed like, from some of the quotes that we were seeing from her family immediately after, that they were maybe not the most enthusiastic about her competing still on the ACL. And obviously they're going to be there supporting her now through the recovery of this injury.
Yeah.
But it's knowing when to walk away and when it's still safe to compete. This isn't, playing in the NHL playoffs with a sprained high ankle sprain, which isn't going to get any better, and you're just playing through pain. This is obviously super high risk, and obviously wish her a speedy recovery, and far be it from me to tell you what to do or what not to do for these athletes who are competing at the highest level. Mm-hmm. But I'm with you. I'm just not sure about the example that it sets.
Yeah.
To compete and put yourself at risk like that.
It's the narrative that does it for me. I also think that for most people that longevity should be a factor. I think for a lot of individuals who are competing at a high level, they sacrifice a lot for their sport, and they will do anything and everything to keep going. And that comes with its own, negatives after the fact when you hang it up and do retire. But, for kind of folks like us or myself who wants to compete at a high level, but still compete or train well into my 60s, 70s, it's important to consider, is it worth it for this, one race or one opportunity, or am I going to, put my longevity
at risk?
Yeah. So, I've done that before. I'm definitely guilty of running through races with injury. We talked a little bit about this actually when this was all kind of happening and unfolding last week, but in my grade 12 cross country season, I ran through shin splints for probably 4 to 6 weeks at the early point in the season. And I ran through to the point where immediately after the race, my coaches had like ice packs and bags of ice ready for my shins because it was so bad. And then I ended up getting, like a bone density scan. And I found out the morning of the city championship race that I did have a stress fracture, and I was advised not to run. Obviously, at that point, my parents, my coaches were like, you are literally not running this race. But I would have gone in. Like, trust me when I tell you, it was my final year of competing, getting to OFSA. To me, like, that was That's
the pinnacle.
Yeah.
When you're in high school and you're competing at that level, it's like same thing for me being a part of the state championship team, like my junior year in hockey. It's like that is the pinnacle for like your sporting career, and it feels like it means so much at that point in time, especially for you in your senior year. I don't know what they call it up here, grade 12.
Yeah, senior year. It puts it into perspective that you really do need other people in your corner that have your best in mind and are helping to make those decisions for you, because I wouldn't trust my 16-year-old win at all costs mindset at all to make that decision. If I had run through that, I could have actually broken my leg, which is insane. And then I'm not running for a year or two.
We had a friend that this happened to recently as well. It's like shin splints bothering him, and then it turned out he has a stress fracture, and he hasn't run in several months now.
I know, it's brutal. And it happens all the time where we think, no pain, no gain, and things like that. So I think when you see it on this stage with this amount of media coverage and articles written, it really hurts to see the narrative that this is what courage is, because I don't believe that to be true.
What has been your favorite sport to watch?
Oh, good pivot. To this point? Yeah. I've really enjoyed the cross-country skiing.
That was mine.
Oh, I did not appreciate how athletic these individuals are. I think they must be the top athletes in the world.
They actually do, like, if we're talking about quantifiable data, we talk about VO2 max a lot. Cross-country skiers do have the highest VO2 max of any endurance athletes across the board. Cycling's number 2. Cross-country skiing is number 1. So that just gives you a pretty good indicator of the aerobic level of fitness that these athletes have to be competing at these events.
Yeah, it's really impressive. And watching all the different derivatives of it as well. There's like the sprint, the kind of longer, more like hour-long race. And then there's, of course, the biathlon where they start shooting guns, which actually my mom was saying to me, what makes the biathlon so challenging is that their heart rate is so high from the lap that they've just done. And then to shoot the gun and aim it perfectly, they have to immediately bring their heart rate down aggressively to make that shot. So, like, talk about, oh my God, I don't even know how you train for that, but it's so cool.
Sounds like when I head into the sled pull.
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, High Rocks is a perfect example.
Gotta dump this heart rate down really quick to try to recover.
I always take a couple of breaths before I get to any of the stations in High Rocks for that very reason. I'm like, okay, reset. We're not running 3:45 pace anymore. We gotta move some heavy sleds. It
also feels in the biathlon so bad if you miss the target, and then you have to go to that little penalty loop. And you see that if you miss 2 shots, you got to do X amount of laps around there. And it feels really bad when you see your competitor who hit all 5 just go right back out on the course, and you just got to be punished doing laps around that little track.
That's a rough one.
Devastating.
Yeah. The mountaineering was also super cool. I don't know how they came up with that sport, but watching them like running up the mountain, and also it's only like a 3-minute long race. They run up, like strip their skis, and they actually ski down. It's on cross-country skis, which is why they look kind of funny. It's just, oh my God, it's so hectic.
The French relay team apparently very dominant in mountaineering. This is something that I learned.
Yeah, they had a huge lead, I think.
Yeah, I think they won by 3 minutes or something. It was crazy.
They stacked the field.
That's another one, though, where I was like, I never knew this was a sport. And it looks very hard. Like, even the running up the steps in the ski boots looked really difficult.
I did. And something we actually talked about that this reminded me of was track and field in like elementary school, high school. The main races at a distance level were like 800 meter, 1500, and 3000. So when I was competing in high school, I was not fast enough to make it to OFSA in the 1500 or 3000. You had to be top 3. I was often top 5. So I chose to switch my focus to steeplechase, which is a 1500 meter race, and you just
you have to jump in the puddle.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why you were leading us through puddles on our run this morning, on our long run this morning.
I actually love jumping. I find it gives me a lot of momentum in the run, and it's kind of fun. So, okay, I also did genuinely enjoy steeplechase, but like full disclosure, I picked that race to compete in because I know I could get to OFSA.
Yeah.
It wasn't...
It's smart.
Yeah, it was full strategy. So we were talking about this with the cross-country races, wondering if the athletes that compete in mountaineering aren't necessarily good enough to do just the normal cross-country ski race, so they put themselves in the ring for that one. I also don't know if maybe some of these athletes competed in both. Maybe there's a, ideal, like based on the timing of these events, which ones you do, but it just was interesting to think about how an athlete picks some of these more obscure sports, like who picked mountaineering.
Yeah. What was it, or do you have a new favorite athlete that you've been watching through this whole tournament? Because a lot of these athletes kind of become household names.
They do. I mean, Eileen Gu, she is just, I think, the most amazing person in the world.
She's so impressive. It's like, didn't she have a degree from Stanford, was it?
Yeah, she's at Stanford. She's gorgeous, like a model. And is one of the
multiple
most
gold
decorated
medalists in like multiple disciplines in the skiing.
Yeah, not just in the Olympics, but like world championships. And her mindset, like the way she's been conducting herself in interviews, she seems super grounded and like really smart, very inspiring also. She's been, kind of encouraging young people to go after their dreams and to dream big. She's a great example of that. I also loved her clap back at JD Vance and some of the male interviewers asking her if she was like disappointed about leaving gold medals on the course because she walked away with some silver. And
I always find that
I
funny.
love her.
I always find it funny when reporters go that route.
Oh my God, I know.
Almost are coming at the accomplishment of winning a silver medal as if it was some sort of, it's just
it's like you're the worst athlete out here.
Yeah, it's insane. I remember there was a reporter too who like did this to the Milwaukee Bucks star Giannis Antetokounmpo a couple of years ago, where he's asking him in the playoffs if the whole season was a failure because they lost in the first round of the playoffs. Giannis was basically
big failure. You're right.
Yeah, he's like, do you get a promotion at your job every year? He's like,
That's
answer that
amazing.
question. He's like, does that mean that this year is a failure for you because you didn't get promoted? And I was like, I love it.
This is the athlete mindset, and it's actually something that I've taken away from the Olympics, that you have to be so resilient to be great. It doesn't matter if you are the most talented, hardworking athlete. Sometimes it just doesn't work out, whether you didn't have your best day, the timing wasn't right, or another athlete had like a phenomenal day. You just have to keep going, keep showing up. And I think oftentimes with the Olympics, we see these athletes at their best and at their worst. So we watch the triumph, we watch the gold medal win. But for a lot of these athletes, we have no idea how much they failed before they got there.
I love Eileen Gu, but do you know who my favorite athlete was that I learned about through this Olympics? It was Sturla Holm Lagride.
I have no idea who that is.
He was the Norwegian biathlete, speaking of biathlon, that got the bronze medal, and then in the post-game interview admitted that he was cheating on his girlfriend. And she left him, and now he was asking for her to come back in the post-game interview. I was like, is this guy insane?
He realized probably that he had been blocked on all their forms of communication, and this was
he should have been blocked.
I know.
Immediately blocked on Instagram and all other platforms.
This was his way of getting back in. That was crazy. I also think for her, she's probably like, oh my God, I did not want to be part of this narrative. Like, just do your sport and leave me alone.
She's like, I'm good.
Yeah.
She wanted nothing to do with this man.
Did she respond? I think she did.
There were some responses on Instagram where it was really funny. She was basically like, I just got called out on
she's like,
not even national television, international television. And now it's all these news stories, and like she's got like news agencies like contacting her to comment on the fact about like this past relationship where like this guy committed infidelity.
Yeah, she's like, I really want nothing to do with this man. Please leave me alone.
And also, what does this man think is going to happen now? He just goes on national. It's like some of these Love Is Blind characters. They just go on national television and just say, or international television, and confess that they were, not faithful in their relationship. And this guy thinks he's going to just get into a new relationship now again.
That's the way to win it back.
It's absurd.
Well, some of the news stories that have come out of the Olympics have been quite entertaining. Like, I've been following a lot of the athletes online, like on Instagram. I love some of the messiness that's going on. It's really like a reality TV show. They should really do a reality TV show at the Olympics.
I think it was something like they went through 10,000 condoms in like in the first 3 days at the Olympic Village, and then nobody could find any more.
I guess that proves that you don't have to abstain before competition.
I guess, or it was like these guys who just competed on day 1, 2, and 3 were just getting
ready
down.
to go.
This is always kind of,
and it was around Valentine's Day actually, so maybe that added some extra
spice.
Yeah.
They were finding their Olympic Valentines in the
village. Oh yeah, if I was single at the Olympics,
some things would be happening in the Olympic Village for sure. But 10,000 is an insane.
No,
I'm like,
that feels like a little dramatic.
I'm like, is every athlete doing it 5 times in the first 3 days?
You know what? They've got good endurance, those cross-country skiers, all hundreds of them.
Yeah, no kidding. My favorite story that's kind of just come out of the Olympics that's, I think, hilarious was Penis Gate. Did you hear about this?
I heard a little bit about this, but why don't you tell the listeners what this means?
Okay, for all the listeners that didn't hear about Penis Gate, basically there were speculations that ski jumpers were getting injections of hyaluronic acid into their genitalia.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is that having a larger member
Sure.
somehow helps you perform better in the ski jump by making you more aerodynamic through that region, and allows you to jump further in the event.
Yes, but what I saw was that they do that before they get their outfits fitted, and then after the outfits are fitted, they go back to their normal size, and it creates this like extra material that acts as like, a flying squirrel, how they have the wing. So that's where they get that aerodynamic advantage after the fact, because you're only allowed, like, regulation rules is you're only allowed a certain amount of extra fabric down there.
I learned way too much about this. Wow, when this story dropped. I guess there was a Norwegian team that got caught cheating with the way that their seams through that area were being sewed to give them an unfair advantage. And apparently this is just like a rampant controversy where everybody's trying to figure out how they can get the edge in this sport in particular. I think that this one is like, I don't know, the anti-doping agency is like looking into it, and the US skiers
they're like,
debunking it. But it was just a hilarious story that made the headlines early on in these competitions.
Another hilarious storyline was Boopgate.
Oh, God. The Canadian curler who allegedly touched the stone against Team Sweden.
Right after releasing. So we also learned that you are not allowed to touch the stone after you release it. And
what's it called? The hog line?
I guess
You can't touch it past the hog line.
So, I mean, hard to say how that would have any influence on the rock. I think in some ways you can like maybe add more spin or direct it a little bit, so sure, but watching the video back, it looked so slight that it looked like it was maybe just an accident. But this part aside, our Canadian reacted quite aggressively when he was called out for this.
That was very un-Canadian of him.
It honestly, maybe it debunked some of the nice Canadian stereotypes. He was just really upset.
It felt like maybe these two competitors, I'm not obviously very ingrained in the curling world. It feels like maybe they've had a lot of heated, I don't know what you call it, matches.
Yeah,
a lot of heated curling matches in the past, and obviously there was some intensity there and maybe some familiarity between top level opponents where things kind of boiled over a little bit quickly there. I will say that the IOC definitely investigated the claims that Canada was cheating, and it was unfounded. So despite the fact that this became a really huge story, especially through the beginning of the Olympics, and I think even the match after that, I forget who they were playing, Slovakia or somebody, also or Czechia, also accused them of cheating in the same way. I think it just kind of became a bandwagon narrative, and despite further investigation and from the curling judges, they
unfounded.
Unfounded allegations.
And also the Canadian team, I think, did have a lot of pressure on them to walk away with a win. They did end up winning gold in their match against Great Britain, which was awesome. We need one men's Canadian team to get gold this year, so thank God someone did it. But I do think that the fact that we as a country were a bit down on our luck for these gold medals probably had some sort of influence in the athletes getting a little bit more aggressive when it came also to being accused of like not playing fairly. And that would just do a lot to your psyche probably, because there's a lot of pressure to, represent your country, especially when you're projected to win. You don't want something like that taking you out.
Yeah, fair enough. My other main takeaway is that the Winter Olympics just overall are way more dangerous than the Summer Olympics. It's actually insane.
It's more of a life or death sporting match.
All of them. Like
Yeah.
the luge, the skeleton, bobsledding,
I can't
the
even
alpine
watch those
skiing.
luge. That's crazy.
Like, it's insane. They're just hurling themselves down these icy chutes at 120 kilometers an hour. And then, like, you go over to the Summer Olympics, and it's like, okay, here's the breakdancing.
Or yeah, here's swimming again.
Yeah, exactly. Way less is going to happen to you in a
Because
pool, it
even
would seem.
I think of speed skating, almost similar to like track or swimming, but
There was people that almost, like, lost, like,
fingers probably like
fingers,
those.
eyes. I saw someone get cut in the face.
Yeah, it's intense. So lots of respect for these athletes, obviously putting their lives at risk for our country and entertainment. But it's interesting. I feel like some years I get way more into the Olympics than others, but this was definitely a year where every morning I woke up, had my coffee, put the Olympics on, and I'm gonna miss that as a ritual. I don't really know what to do now.
Do you think maybe the timing helps with that as well? Just because of the time change where it was this year, it felt like a lot of the events were kind of going on during the day. I know that you work from home. It's really easy just to pop it on and kind of be just watching it, like, just throughout the day. It doesn't really take up the evenings. It's been nice.
It's definitely nice. I sometimes would watch the prime time in the evening, though, if I wanted to watch it when it wasn't live. But yeah, the CBC Gem has been awesome to just watch specific events and replay events if you missed them, because some of the events did start at like 5 a.m. Those were a little bit trickier, but it's been great. I think the Olympics are such an awesome time to watch the country come together and to see, like, these athletes, they spend their whole lives training for these moments. So something that was really inspiring to me was watching them compete and watch them have their moment. I mentioned this before, but I think that something we maybe take for granted is that just because you put in the work and you're really good does not guarantee success. You still have to execute and perform on the day. I think us as like runners, hybrid athletes, we put ourselves in a race environment like, I don't know, a dozen times per year. It's like, how many of those races are going to go your way? So it was a good reminder for me that even the best of the best, it's a universal experience. We all have to still execute, and you have to, as I said before, keep going. So I find it inspiring to watch the actual best of the best fail and still show up, like, probably in the next 4 years.
It's a great takeaway. For me, it's a good reminder that consistency and discipline will always prevail over motivation or just raw talent. Mm-hmm. These athletes have just been at it for, some of them, 15, 20, 25
decades.
years, forever. And that's just simply, especially in sports like cross-country skiing, which I think is very relatable to some of the sports that we compete in, building that sort of aerobic engine doesn't happen in a year. It doesn't happen in 2 years. It's just a slow progression of showing up.
A lot of patience.
And doing the consistent work that's sometimes super boring, but it really just lays the foundation for you to be successful later. And I think as more amateur athletes that are competing in these sports and competing at a fairly high level in these endurance sports, but we're not professionals, I think it is a good reminder that if you do show up and be consistent in your training, and it doesn't always have to be the flashy stuff, that's what actually moves the needle over time.
Yeah, and a perfect example of this is Michaela Schifrin. Going back to alpine skiing, she is the most decorated alpine, like, downhill skier for the U.S. women, and she had an incredible, I'll call it, I guess, more early start to her career and long run. But the last 8 years, she's been in, I guess, what's called a medal drought, where she has not been performing to her best, and she has had setbacks from different injuries and crashes. But she came out and won gold in her event this year, which also was by a huge margin, like over 1 second. And at that level, to win by that much is incredible. And I wanted to bring this up, but a text that she got from her teammate, Breezy Johnson, who won gold in her event, texted Michaela and said, "You will not be happy, or you will not be happier with or without a medal, because happiness comes from cats."
Oh, God.
But it really puts it into perspective. Like, it's true. A medal or an outcome is not what generates happiness. You have to find that from within and have a different identity, so that when you are competing, it's not absolutely everything on the line. And it was what she needed, maybe, to remove that layer of pressure and let herself just ski, whether she wins or not. And that resulted in not just a winning performance, but like a dominant winning performance.
We can close out on this because I think it was something that you had mentioned to me. The heated rivalry kind of consideration of American women hockey players and like women on the Canadian team, like being in romantic relationships with each other and then having to break up, or breaking up before the game. Like Breezy Johnson's husband proposed to her, like right after her gold
Lots
medal.
of romance in the air, that's for sure. Heartbroken and engagement, so full spectrum. But yeah, we didn't talk much about the Canadian women's and American hockey game, which also was
the Americans won.
The Americans won the gold medal game, which was again
double gold,
heartbreaking for the Canadians. But that was also an incredible game to watch, and knowing that there was this additional layer of heartbreak between one of the US and one of the Canadian players was just kind of fun, especially after heated rivalry. I think, who's to say that wasn't present on the men's game? We just don't know about it yet.
You never know. You never know what stories might
I
drop.
hope so.
It's clear to say that this Olympic competition really had it all this year.
It did. I'm going to miss it. I'm definitely excited for the next Summer Olympics, LA 2028. Ready to lock in behind our country again.
That's it. 2 short years away. Mm-hmm. Where do you think you'll be in 2 years in your training regiment?
I'm going to be
gearing up. Open-ended.
Gearing up for cross-country skiing, apparently.
Yeah, true. You're going to be... there wasn't a lot of Canadians in those events, so it seems like there might be an open door. We just got to get you somewhere where there's a little bit more snow more consistently. Maybe Montreal.
Fine, I'll move to Norway. Twist my arm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I hear your dad's Norwegian as well.
We got a lot of that in our family.
North Scandinavian heritage.
I think it's time we all just picked up and went to Norway.
That's it. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with your friends, share it with your family. And until next time, stay aerobic AF.